similar to this before, but this is a lot more specific. So I actually, one time when I was arrested, and obviously I'd never been arrested until about 10 years ago, I did get a book. I think they did bring a book in or give me a book. I can't remember if they asked me if I wanted to read the book, but I can't remember if it was a book of actual just standard law or legal practice. It was a book. I'm trying to find out what this book is that they give you, if there's a specific book. All I can find really is the Book of Police Practice, the Code of Police Practice. It might have been the Code of Police Practice, like arrest procedures and so forth. But some police stations have a book of, basic rights and so forth. They are actually supposed to read you your rights. It says here, this is in Google, right? It says that when you're arrested, you have the right to be told why you are in custody. Receive a list of your rights. Well, they're definitely not giving you, they're not doing that. They're not giving you a list of your rights if you've got political rights, because then you'd be able to get out. They're not recognising or giving you a list of your political rights, particularly if it's petitioning. So they're breaching that one. Obtain legal advice. Access a legal representative. Well, you can get a phone call to get a duty solicitor. Inform someone of your location, phone call. Receive medical assistance if needed, a doctor. Read the police's rules, known as Code of Practice. Right, well, that'll be the book then. And I just showed you a copy of it. There is a book that they give you, but it's the police's rules of their Code of Practice. I don't think it's actually just like a dictionary on law or basic law. Read a notice informing you of your rights, including access to food and water. Well, I was deprived of access to water myself one time. You can ask the police to help you, etc. They're definitely not informing you of your rights. Also, I notice on this that it hasn't got the priest on there. There's always been a tradition of being allowed to see a priest if you're under arrest or if you are in prison. And I've always known that there's some kind of function to that. The Protestant religion now and Christianity is entrenched in British law. It's used in legal proceedings, like when you're swearing in on your oath, and also really the principle of forgiveness as well is incorporated into the judicial process. Also, if you're religious, you might want to pray. But you can actually ask for a priest to help you, just like here you've got access to a doctor, because it's part of the framework. They haven't got it listed here, but it's quite important. Actually, just a minute, hold on. This Guardian story is saying that some police actually did a charity project and they started giving their detainees books. They gave them access to books to read, and they actually did a charity project for it. Right? Look here. There's a police guy posing with a box of books. Now, what I've actually realised, the thing is that you actually are allowed a priest when you're in prison. If you are, and also if you're of the Christian faith, they've actually got one. They do have duty priests who have a duty for visiting prisoners, right? Now, this is the thing. If you're pleading guilty, you're going to say that you did the crime, right? And the Christian religion is entrenched in English law. You can actually seek forgiveness. You could get a priest to pray for you and possibly even ask them to attend and be a witness. Because remember, the defendants can call a witness to court. A defendant can have witnesses. You can have a witness for someone who saw something. If you've got a lawyer, if the lawyer wants to prove a case, he has witnesses, and even professional witnesses if it's a complex case. Realise that you could have a priest as a witness, right, giving evidence of your pursuit of forgiveness. The defendant seeks forgiveness. They've been praying, right? I've been to see them. You could probably get this on the same terms as a duty solicitor or like when you've got the right to a doctor, right? I would have thought you can probably get a priest, because they've got a duty one, who could potentially, if you knew how to ask for all this, it's provided for in the system, but I don't think they teach them it now, or they're not really up on it, right? But if there's two different scenarios, well, three. Firstly, if you actually did the offence and you're guilty, right? In the Christian faith, you can seek forgiveness and get a priest to pray for you. If you're going to plead guilty, right, you can also give mitigation, a letter of mitigation, or a representation of mitigation. You won't be put on trial if you plead guilty. You will just go to sentencing. But in sentencing, you can give mitigation. If you were a devout Christian, you could get a duty priest, I'm quite certain, if they've still got them. I think they do, but they did have them for sure. And you can get them to pray for you. You can also get them to, I would have thought you could get them to be a witness in the court, particularly if you've got mitigating circumstances. You can say, I seek forgiveness from the justices in the court, that's after you've pleaded. Remember, they can't, the court can't do favours for you. They can't do favours in exchange for justice or deals, right? Particularly to get the plea out of you or to get information out of you. But if you did the crime and you're very, very sorry, you could, in theory, get a priest to appear as a witness when you give mitigation and pray for you and give evidence that they prayed with you and that, you sincerely, repent and you seek forgiveness, right? Which is not asking for a deal for justice, because you already pleaded guilty, right? But you can pray for forgiveness from the justice and repent, okay? Short of being laid down prostrate on the floor in front of the justice, and him ordain you as a bishop, you don't have to lay down in the court in front of the justice in the prostrate position, and or else you might be doing more than being charged. You might even be being ordained, right? The second situation is that you didn't do it. You actually just did not do it, and you plead not guilty. You might want a solicitor to represent you, right? But you could still ask ask the priest to pray for you and pray for, pray for, let's think of a more complicated word. Virtue, right? You could get a priest to say to pray for your virtue and your honesty and innocence. That's a better word. You could get a priest to be a professional witness, and you could confess. You could actually make a confession to the priest that you are innocent officially, and that you didn't do this, and explain to them what happened. And you could, get them to pray for you, and in your sincerity and honesty with your virtue as a Christian, right? And you could get them to be a witness of that and give evidence to the court of your honesty and virtue and innocence, right? You can do that. And that figures into the legal system. It's a recognisable valid, because the system's based on this. That is what the jury are there for, with their conscience and so forth, right? But also the facts and evidence and the prosecutor, the whole thing, right? Now, you do have a right to a priest, because I know that, just same as the doctor. Now, the thing is, when they offer you that book of police of code of practice and, your rights, it isn't going to say in that book the right to petition, and it isn't going to give you all the constitutional law. Because this is what Graham Moore was talking about. Graham Moore was talking about the fact that even all the modern criminal lawyers and the solicitors, they haven't studied constitutional law. And some of them are only specialists in one field or area of law, whether it is civil rights or criminal law or litigation or whatever. Lawyers specialise like university students specialise. Now, the thing is, I'm not in that police code of practice book. it may say something, but it's unlikely to give you this information, what I'm about to tell you now. Now, although it says that the police are supposed to inform you of their rights, but they're not informing people of their rights. They're trying to make out people are doing civil disobedience or peaceful protesting or whatever, but they're not informing you that you're taking up parliamentary rights or privileges, or that they're not informing you of any of those rights that there are, which some people are using, right? So they're failing there. They're actually breaking the law. They've broke the law because they're failing to uphold their legal obligations. Now, in the case of, right, someone who is actually doing a parliament petition and advertising and promoting it and collecting signatures from the public, or even doing some kind of more radical advertisement, which we could easily argue or have recognised is within the definitions in the Town and Country Planning Act, control of advertisements, and right, each is an advertisement, and you're covered by parliamentary privileges, right, and you're protected to follow your cause. It's not peaceful protesting under the European Convention rights. You're actually using powers, right, but you end up getting arrested by the police illegally, right? Now, this is the thing. You have got a right to a duty solicitor, and a duty solicitor is meant to know all these rights, okay? He's meant to know basic rights, like a GP, general practitioner in medicine, is a general doctor. But if he has something specialist, he has to refer you to a radiologist or something like that, who specialises in a certain part of medicine. When you get a duty solicitor in, the duty solicitor is meant to be versed in general law. So he should know something about parliamentary privilege and rights, okay? And this is what the current duty solicitors are failing in and aren't doing. In fact, I contacted one of them who is on the duty solicitor rota list at Westminster, and he goes, oh, I don't know anything about this, and get someone else to do it. But he actually should know something about it. And even if you got the representation or the law for it yourself, he should be able to present and deliver that to a court or even in the police station. But even so, if you have got a particular right and that duty solicitor recognises that you've got the right and it's in effect, and you're having a problem with the police recognising it or in the court, then that duty solicitor, under the duty solicitor regime, should or could be able to get someone, refer you to the right specialist who does know that area of law. And it doesn't seem like we've got any of these at the moment in this constitutional law, or they're not doing it properly for us, right? But on the other hand, if you are self-representing, if you forget about the duty solicitor at the moment and forget about all these specialist lawyers, let's say you're kind of like me and you know quite a bit of the law and constitutional rights enough to that you know what they are. And you know how they apply, and you know the criminal procedure rules, and you know enough to prove and claim the rights, then the thing is this, there is actually also, remember, this priest and the right to see a priest, right? Now, this is the thing. If you... When you're in detention, and if you've got a chance to read books or be given them, this is when actually you could do with knowing this information or knowing certain things. And if you actually ended up being in that police station and you actually got into your hands a book of constitutional law and constitutional rights, then you would have something there what was useful and substantial, right? Rather than this police code practice book or whatever, which I don't think is. Right? And what I've actually read today, and I already knew a little bit of it because I've seen some statute law clauses, which this today I found, I didn't know that, I think it's only been put on there recently, but I might be wrong. The 1297 Magna Carta, they've also got the 1297 confirmation of the rights. Sorry, the charters. Confirmation of the charters, right? The confirmation of the charters, 1297, is put into law. It's live with legal effect now with active legislation on the government website next to the Magna Carta 1297, which isn't airy-fairy. All these groups that say Magna Carta is not actual law, it's on the legislation website as an act of law given assent in the same format as the other acts of law, which the Crown prosecutors are using all the time, and the police and everything, right? That confirmation of the rights has got that's actually the legislate. Some of the institute law that I've been looking at recently, it was just from like a guidebook that was like listing them all. It was like listing all of the laws, and some of them I wasn't too sure if they were definitely in effect or not. You know, like the fact that judges aren't allowed to hold a position as a barrister and practice in law while they're a judge, because otherwise you could get judges who are barristers bringing cases and throwing cases or presenting cases in a manner and form as they want themselves, as other justices would like cases to be presented and put through in their favour, so the judges can get a case presented in a way how they want the order to come out, right? So it would be justices bringing cases before justices. The justices aren't meant to be practicing lawyers or bringing cases before them. It's sort of like in the American Constitution, you know, elected people of office weren't meant to vote. You know, that's just the way it is. You're not meant to. And that's institute law. And I complained about that to the Judicial Conduct Investigation Office, right? Now, the thing is also as well, some of the statutes were like, you know, the orders against the Great Charters are void and orders against the Charter of the City of London are void. This is actually in the confirmation of the Charters Act 1297, right? And it's actually, it just literally, you know, it says like, you know, if any of the, basically, when everyone's saying that Magna Carta can't be repealed, right, or changed, well, Magna Carta itself says that the Charter of Liberties and the Forest cannot be changed, or the Edward the Confessor laws. But this confirmation of the Charters makes it even more explicit, right? Says what the Magna Carta says, but actually makes it into a proper another act of law. Now, this confirmation of the Charters is where it says that if any order by any justices or anything is done in contravention to these charters, then it's null and void. It has no effect, right? So that's like the Charter of Liberties and the Great Charter of the Forest, but also that document itself that says that, right? And it says and charters the same. So there's a little bit of an argument over whether it means also the Magna Carta. But the Magna Carta is the same as that because it's also it's also preserving the other charters, right? So the act that says that none of it can be repealed also can't be repealed because it says this the same, right? So now, so the basis for the 1688 Bill of Rights, the right to petition, right, is based on Magna Carta. It's a reaffirmation and clarification of what Thomas Erskine May says in his public petitions chapter in XIX of his Usage of Parliament book. It says that it's Magna Carta and the 1688 Bill of Rights where the right to petition comes from, right? And the privileges, because it's lex talionis, being protected to pursue your cause, which is what happens in hue and cry also, but only under a local jurisdiction of authority, right? Not under the jurisdiction of Parliament, which is same principle, different jurisdiction, right? So, and also what it says in that confirmation of the charters is actually really important because it says that, you know, if these laws aren't upheld and if they are violated and if, you know, or if it is repealed or changed in any way, which it can't be done, then, you know, it's null and void. But what do you do about it? You know, what can you do about it? Well, you've got to get some kind of assistance, help or intervention, right? Now, it says that In regards to pleas, and you only enter a plea if you're a criminal, if you've been charged with something, if someone's got a criminal charge against you, or a civil action, right? It says that in regards to pleas, right, in a court, then ministers have got a legal obligation. Now, you might have been in court in Parliament because in all those petitions they've got from the National Archives, which I'm reading through at the moment, struggling through them, which is quite a lot, they've got causes, to Parliament, right? So you've got ministers involved, but you also, if you've already got a case with Parliament, and if you've got rights that need protecting in the interests of that case, the needs of other cases, and rights, recognising the rights, your ministers are acting, right? So they have got to actually do something, and this is when your MPs really meant to act. But it says ministers, member of Parliament isn't a minister, but your member of Parliament is your advocate, is your advocacy for Parliament, right? So your ministers have got to act, like, the Privileges Committee and the Petitions Committee have got to act, right? And it says if all these people are failing and not acting and intervening, if you've got a void order, which is a null, but you're still suffering or imprisoned or being wrongfully charged or breaking the law, the authorities are breaking the law. The authorities are breaking the law with the confirmation of the charters by prosecuting people who are protected by the right to petition. That's for sure. Now, it says that, and this is why I've even made this video. I won't even start recording if I want to get to this part, which is that it's actually the obligation and responsibility of a bishop to compel the justice and or ministers to resolve the matter, right? Now, how do you get access to a bishop? Well, if you've been arrested, you can see a Protestant priest or Catholic, right? And every priest of a local church has a head who's in charge, right? Now, if you are in prison, arrested, and you say, and they get a doctor to check your blood sugar if it's a bit high, and if they don't take you to hospital, say, I want to see a priest, right? They've got a duty priest, I'm sure. They have for the prison service, so they must have for police detention, I'm sure. And because you used to, when you wanted to a pardon or to appeal to the House of Lords before the Constitutional Reform Act, you do it by prayer. So if you were in prison and you wanted to petition Parliament for a release to the House of Lords, you get a priest and they would pray for you and they would help you with the petition because it's got a prayer on it, right? That's for certain. And many priests might not be taught this now, they might not know it, but it exists. They should know it. They should be taught it, right? And there's a lot of priests who've been arrested with Extinction Rebellion who just really didn't have a clue with all this. They don't know their own ordained powers and jurisdictive authority unless they're marrying someone, right? And they don't even bother turning up when it's a divorce. It was a lot more involved, actually, when you had the constitutional, before the Constitutional Reform Act 2005. It was a lot more. This was a thing, right? This was a proper thing. Under the Appeal Jurisdiction Act, you petitioned the House of Lords with a prayer. If you were in prison and you were doing that, like they've got a form in America, it's called a petition for restitution, right? And that is an actual form of petition to the president from an American prison, right? If you've been incarcerated, right? In England, you petition the House of Lords. They had the Appeal Jurisdiction Act, and it was simply with a petition and a prayer. Well, if you're in prison, you can access a priest, and a priest can help you with it, with your prayer, and possibly even submit it to the House of Lords for you, to the Archbishop of Canterbury. I don't know who's done this in the past. I don't know how many people have done it. I would have thought under that Appeal Jurisdiction Act, people have petitioned the House of Lords, and I would have thought that some of them, that if you've got a list of everyone who was in prison who did that, who petitioned the House of Lords under the Appeal Jurisdiction Act, I'm guessing that if you do look into it and find out exactly, some of them might have had a priest advocating for them or helping them with it. There probably may be some, right? So someone knows about it, someone knew about it. The Archbishop of Canterbury must know about it. Rowan Williams must know about it, but yet he's doing all these appearances with Roger Hallam, making out that he's helping Extinction Rebellion, and Roger Hallam has been in prison again, and he's done nothing. He hasn't done anything. Either he must not think Roger Hallam has that much faith, or he himself doesn't really know the law that well, which means that he wasn't a very good Archbishop of Canterbury. It's quite disappointing, really, right? Now, going back to just the normal police arrest, if you are doing a petition and if you are using your rights, okay, and if you do know about them or something about them, and the police are refusing to recognise them and won't just, let you go and discharge you, right, and, withdraw the prosecution, if you're having difficulty getting that done, or if it proceeds to when you get summoned to court, which we are now with like some of these Extinction Rebellion people, right, then you actually have a right to a priest. Now, the thing is, right, this is the thing. You're probably not going to get, like, the Bishop of York or the Bishop of London is not going to come into your cell to see you in prison. But you probably can get a Protestant priest. And you can say to them, look, this is the thing, this is now in this act, confirmation of the Charters Act 1297. It says that this is in law. This is like, you might as well just knock up, Protection from Harassment Act or whatever, Section 42. The police reel it all off. Oh, yeah, I'm using Section 42 with the criminal procedure rules. Yeah, well, type this in and knock it up on the same website. And, it's 1297, right? Confirmation of the Charters. It says that if you've been having legal action against you or any prosecution which is in violation of those charters, then a bishop, right, can compel the justices, right? And that is also if you have been illegally prosecuted and convicted as well. Because remember, you can have things set aside. And this is not an appeal. This is like, you don't appeal it. You don't actually enter an appeal. You don't fill an appeal form in. It says in the confirmation of the charters, right? If someone has acted against you in contravention of those charters, it is null and void. It is null and void, right? That is an order from Parliament, right? Now, so you need that acknowledged, and then you need the order officially making a null and officially making void. You're not filling an appeal form in, right? And this is overriding objectives, that if you're a victim of an unlawful act, you can have the rights recognised in any proceedings at all, which is why the probation service are popping to court all the time and mentioning left, right and centre, or updating them on stuff, or getting medical rights acknowledged. So you've got all these overriding objective procedures. Yes, they've got all their own training and procedures, but we're talking about overriding objectives. It says that the bishop, now they've got a bishop in London, okay? They've got this Bishop of London. This is Dame Sarah Mullally, DBE, right? This is the Bishop for London. This is her, right? This is the Bishop of London. So Westminster Magistrates Court, Southwark Crown Court, Isleworth Crown Court, Woolwich Crown Court, Central Criminal Court, Old Bailey, whatever, right? This is the woman, the person, and now we've got female bishops. Remember, this woman here, right? This woman. So she, right? You can have the Archbishop of Canterbury as well, obviously, because he's like, obviously the Archbishop of Canterbury is the boss of the bosses, right? But in London, this is a bishop in London, right? A bishop in London of the Protestant religion of England, right? Under, right, Forget criminal procedure rules, because we've got overriding objectives and the Human Rights Act. If you are a victim of an unlawful act, you can rely on a right in any proceedings. But what if they're not listening to the right? What if they're ignoring it, right? So the confirmation of the charters clearly says, in law now, in effect, on the government website, clearly states in English law, which is of effect now, if you have an order against you in contravention of those charters, specifically of the Charter of Liberties, Magna Carta is the same. It says the same, and this charter itself, right, and the 1688 Bill of Rights, right to petition, is the Magna Carta right reaffirmed and simplified, which is what Sir Thomas Erskine May says in his book, in chapter XIX, on the usage of Parliament in the public petitions chapter. He says you got privileges of Parliament in it, right, from Magna Carta and the 1688 Bill of Rights, which are the only two acts of law cited in that chapter at the bottom, right? Those are where it comes from. And it has to come from Magna Carta, because Edward Vaudreuil is talking about it in his petition to Parliament. He's talking about he's been protected to follow his cause, to prove his case, lex talionis, which is exactly also what William Penn and William Mead are also claiming in the recorded sessions of the Central Criminal Court, Old Bailey, in 1670, in his own exact words of the Great Charter, right? That's what it is. So this woman here, right, you aren't going to get her to come into police station and speak with you, right? But if you get a Protestant priest in, right, you can say to him, like you do a duty solicitor, this is what you can say. You can say, we're doing a petition campaign, and we're protected by the right to petition and parliamentary privileges, and the police are they're just ignoring me, right? And you can say, can you go get the bishop, please, because I need to get it enforced, as it's against the charters. And then you get her to come in, right, or write a letter to the police and say, if you show her, right, you show her your petition, that it exists and that you're doing it, whether it's on Parliament website or if it was in writing or whatever, and you are actually doing that, if you were doing a campaign for it, right, like, advertising it or getting people to sign it or whatever, an advertisement for it within the definition of control of advertisements, within the law and definitions of the control of advertisements law, which it allows, with deemed and express consent, installing or removing an advertisement under those definitions, including fairy lights on the London Bridge, right, which is an advertisement for Christmas, a Christian festival, right? She has to write a letter to the police to tell them to release you and to withdraw the charges. And if you're at the stage where you've been charged and you've got to go to court, which is what Nicholas Arlett and Alison Young and Martin Whitehead and Lloyd Dunsford, the position they're in now with the justice, right? She has got to write a letter to the justices at Westminster Magistrates Court in London and tell them, right, tell the justice to, right, either set the case aside or, discharge it, right? Or if you've already been prosecuted or convicted, to set it aside, or tell them it is of no effect, right? Because what those justices are doing, ministers, justices, councillors, their servants, police officers, and so forth, they're acting against the Great Charters illegally, right? And this is why, also, in 1688, this is also to do with John Beswick and Henry Burton, remember, as well. They were priests. With John Beswick and Henry Burton, right, 1640s, just before the Civil War, right, He was a priest. They were priests. They were priests. John Baswick and Henry Burton were priests, petitioning through Magna Carta, the Great Charter. Magna Carta, Lex Talionis, let us pray, right? They were petitioning for changes in law. They were priests. Burton was nearly the Archbishop of Canterbury himself. Never mind, call me a priest. Call me doctor. Call me doctor. Call me. I am a priest. I am a priest. I'm a bishop. Call me a doctor. I'm a bishop. I'm a celebrity. Get me out of here. I'm a bishop. The king was prosecuting them in the Royal Court of Commission. They weren't in Woolwich. They weren't in Ponce Magistrates Court with their own peers. They weren't, handing out lorry, delivering, tickets around houses or, putting strange models, advertisement models in the town square or fairy lights on the bridge if they had them days, sort of candles. The Parliament, the King, was prosecuting them. Never mind, local jurisdiction. Right? They were getting their ears chopped off. Right? Chop, chop. Put in prison. Their wives had to get them out through John Pym. John Pym got them out of prison. He was a MP, Member of Parliament, right? Now, they can't do that to you now. But also, not just for coming up with the idea that you want to get the religion changed, but, actually going out and advertising it and so forth, which is all legally documented in the Control of Advertisement Act anyway, which they're not even arguing over that. I wouldn't mind if they were arguing what does and does not qualify as an advertisement, but they're not even on the right page, let alone in the right book. Now, we have got the 1688 Bill of Rights right to petition, which all prosecutions are illegal against you. We know that. Now, those justices, right, in this 1688 Bill of Rights, it sit at the opening part, evil justices, ministers, and councillors, subverting the liberties of the realm, right? That is failing to recognise the Great Charters and making orders which are against the Great Charters, which are void, right? Ministers, justices, and councillors, right? How and when and where would a justice be subverting the liberties of the realm in connection with the right to petition? Well, if you're getting prosecuted illegally, these justices are, according to the 1688, but it's evil. It's evil. If you subvert the liberties of the realm against the Great Charters by the confirmation of the Charters, it's evil. It says that it is an evil act. Evil to subvert the liberties of the realm in contravention of the Great Charters in English law under the Protestant faith of England. It is evil. It is an evil act, right? So the justices need to be compelled to sort it out, which basically means annul it. It needs to be annulled. That is it. And this woman here in London, her and the Archbishop of Canterbury, they're responsible for the justices, for the actual judges and ministers. The ministers really are meant to be doing... This is meant to be Constitutional Reform Act 2005, Section 5, and petition... It's meant to be the Petitions Committee and the Privileges Committee's joint responsibility, this, right? And if the ministers are not doing it, then making representations to the court, and then you've got the Attorney General as well. Remember, he's meant to be the lawyer of the court. He's meant to be like the Parliament's lawyer, whatever, the lawyer of Parliament, whatever. So she is actually meant to do it. Now, if she's too busy, she's not going to go in. She's not going to go to the court, but she can write a letter herself. Now, you might say, well, judges and priests don't know the law. They don't know rights. They don't know, like, the Control of Advertisements Act. They don't know, things like that. It might be a bit niche, but she's meant to know. She's meant to know the Act. She's meant to know the confirmation of the Charters Act. She's meant to know that. She's meant to know any act which talks about constitutional responsibilities of bishops. She's meant to know it, right? She might not know. I wouldn't say that she needs to know. She wouldn't be required to know all of the law on the control of advertisements or anything like that. But that's what the Attorney General's for. He's meant to be the lawyer of Parliament, right? So, and he's meant to be there. Like council have got legal services, right? But this is the thing, the staff of Parliament. But she's in the church. But the church has also they've got lawyers because they do charity stuff. The church has got certain lawyers. Now, are these lawyers on the side of the people or not? This is the problem, right? The attorney, it is a matter of, it's a matter of state, church, state and law. You've got citizens who have been detained against the Great Charter. They're given the responsibilities. She's been given the responsibility in law, whether she likes it or not, in that act. It says the bishop, so she's the Bishop of London, right? And the Archbishop of Canterbury as well. But he's Canterbury. The Archbishop of Canterbury is the head, but he's Canterbury, isn't he? But there are other bishops which are involved in those areas as well. But he's meant to be Canterbury, but Canterbury is meant to be the main place. And he's like, but she generally for London. But she's Lord Spiritual anyway. So it is her responsibility under that Constitutional Reform Act to compel. It's a Christian faith. That law and legislation is the Christian faith in law. It is Christian faith. And if you've got police officers, this is where it all fits in, right? Because why would a police officer, if you have got a right, and it clearly says so in the law, okay, and the police officer is not acknowledging it, then he's lying, right? What's that? It's not telling the truth. It's being deceptive, fraudulent, right? This is morals. This is morals. This is individual humans' spiritual alignment. This is being righteous, virtuous, etc., right? Innocent. If you're a corrupt police officer and you're not abiding by the law, then you're not a good Christian, are you? Because you're not acting lawfully and you're a criminal. So this is why you need a priest to compel them with the Holy Spirit of God. I'm not saying that they go in there with holy water and, some garlic and, have the police climbing up the walls, crawling up the walls in the police cell with their head twisting round like on, Exorcist. We're not having the police chief going red rum, crawling up the wall, Sir Mark Rowley crawling up the wall of the police station outside Scotland Yard like Spider-Man with his head twisting round and his eyes flashing, with Mullally, stood underneath like in The Exorcist, so the power of Christ compels you, right? This is the thing. This is that they're not. This is the law and how it's meant to be, right? You're not following the law. You're not obeying the law. And this you might think that these protesters are the ones misbehaving, but they're actually not, because the law says that if they're following a just cause, they are to be protected, right? That is what the Great Charter says. That is what That is the law. The law says that they're not in the law of England. They aren't a criminal. You're not a criminal, right? You aren't a criminal if you show just cause, because it's let us pray, lex talionis. So this is the thing. So she needs to. We need to get her to write to the magistrates' court, particularly with this Judge Clark, MC Clark, whatever, right, at Westminster, because they need to, the Crown Prosecution Service needs to drop these charges, and the justice, you don't need to have a session. You don't need to be there with this. This is like overriding objectives, can be recognised any time. The court can recognise this of their own initiative under the Magistrates' Court Act 1980. They can recognise an act of their own initiative, right? So, this is the thing. And the thing is, some of these lawyers who are not of the Christian faith, some of them are Muslims, some of these lawyers, some of them are Islam, some of them are Buddhists, they don't even have our religion. These rights are actually, this is what Graham Moore was talking about. These are English rights, really, for English people who have faith in the rights and believe in the rights and understand them and know they're right. Now, some of these justices, even, I'm not saying what colour they are, white or whatever, some of these justices don't have faith in the rights or the law, or believe in them, or understand them. Some of them, don't like them. But this is why you've got to get a priest to compel the justices, because what you're looking at is evil justices. And I didn't write that this is evil, right? In English law, right, this is evil, right? And the petitioners aren't evil. This is what it is. This is the way it is, whether you like it or not. Judges who make orders against the Great Charter, right, are evil in English law. It is an evil act. It's given assent by the king, right, who is the head of the church, right, and the bishops, right, and the archbishop. The archbishop, right, has given consent and royal assent to an act of law, right, under the Christian faith in England, which says that the act of violating the Great Charters, right, illegally, is evil. And that's it. It's evil. So, it's not my idea. I didn't make it up, and I didn't write it, but that is what it actually is. So we're dealing with evil. The problem we're facing in the courts, therefore, is we are combating evil, right? That is good versus evil, right? We're not disputing the law anymore. We know what the law is. If we didn't, then we wouldn't even be here having this argument, right? The law is what it says it is, right? So we've got a problem where people are not following or having faith in the law or rights, which is, it's actually an evil act. So if we don't get action from the bishop, well, they've actually got to act. They're in contempt if they don't, they're in contempt of the House of Parliament, and that's a forfeiture of privileges, so they're forfeiting their own privileges. So, I'm not suggesting that they should have their ears cut off like, Beswick and Burton, but that is what it is. It's not an argument of the law. We know what the law is. It's a spiritual, religious problem of virtue. And it's a problem of the human conscience. It is a problem of the human spirit, which is what the whole point of a priest is there to do. So, if we, Mullally has got responsibilities in crime and justice when it is rights, when it is English constitutional rights, she's got legal obligation to engage and act. And also, they've got duties anyway. They've got duty priests to go to prisons anyway. They've got duty priests to go to police stations. That's part of the job. Some of them are voluntary. So it's not like they don't engage with or touch upon aspects of criminal law, because they do, because they've got prison priests. So, but this is when you're not in prison. Well, Roger Hallam is. Hallam's in prison. What is evading me and escaping me is Rowan Williams, because this is meant to be his bread and butter. Rowan Williams he was the Archbishop of Canterbury, but he's meant to be on the side of Hallam. But like I said, not all priests are lawyers, and they don't all know the law. But they're meant to know some aspects of it, and constitutional rights and duties, particularly in prisons. They will have known the Appeal at Jurisdiction Act and petitioning Parliament. They will have known that, and I would have thought that some of the prison priests, duty ones, would have had to have known that, or they're around the closest you can get to it. Now, some of them aren't being informed. They're not being educated on it, and this is the problem. How do they know if you're right or not? And if it is a violation of the Great Charter? Well, first, you have to have a claim, and you have to put the claim in, and you have to tell them. You have to claim it. You have to say, I'm having my rights infringed on against the Great Charter, right? And you say, because we're doing a petition campaign and we're protected. Here's the Bill of Rights, and here's my petition. And then they say, well, are you sure that applies to you? You know, are you sure you weren't doing something else? Well, you say, no, because we were putting advertisement, we're advertising it. And that really is there at that point. If they're not certain when to act, when it says that it's their duty, because they don't have enough faith that you are correct in law for them to act, because there is a legal aspect to it as well. That is, you're looking at, there is legal services, they've got legal services, and you've got the Attorney General. So you would have thought that she would write to the Privileges Committee or Petitions Committee or the Attorney General or the Prime Minister. But I would have thought Attorney General, because he's meant to be the Solicitor for Parliament. So it's part of his duties. So the Attorney General can inform her on the Control of Advertisements Act, and what is within the definitions of the Act with deemed an express consent, right? And then you're looking at Gail Bradbrook and on the fringe, Hallam and Gail Bradbrook and Co. and Just Stop Oil. Some of those are. Some of those do actually qualify for under control of advertisements. But then you've got this thing where you're not even meant to be criminally liable at all anyway, but you're civilly liable. So it could extend to criminal damage. But the Criminal Damage Act says that if you're using the right privilege or interest, then you don't enter a defence. Not in one of those courts anyway. Not in a magistrates or Crown Court. So it could be a matter of, civil, only open to civil actions, And I think that's pretty much it, other than the fact that, as well as civil actions, you're not meant to be in prison anyway. I really don't know what Rowan Williams is playing at, because this is meant to be his thing, and he's been partially engaged in it. Is he testing Roger Hallam? Is he kind of like testing the faith of Hallam? Well, I'll help Hallam out. I'll be in his video, but he doesn't really seem to be, a true believer. So, I'll just let him sit in prison for a while. That's not any use to anyone, is it? I'm not too sure what Rowan Williams is playing at, what his game is, or if he just, needs to go see the Attorney General. Rowan Williams needs to see the Attorney General more than Chris Packham and Dale Vince, because Dale Vince and Chris Packham want to go see the Attorney General. This is the woman who should be seeing the Attorney General, because she has a legal given obligation in constitutional law, very clear in effect in law now, where it is her responsibility to act, not Chris Packham, not Dale Vince. You know, she's got to act and see the Attorney General, or if she herself doesn't need the Attorney General, because if you can show her, you know, that well, you don't really need to go to those terms of that Control of Advertisement Act. I'm pretty sure it extends to the Criminal Damage Act as well, because they can just bring a civil case against you, not criminal, and then you're not facing prison. But I would have thought that, you know, if it's, you know, violence or murder or something, you're looking at being in violations of the, you know, the actual religion. This is the thing of what Graham Moore saying is entrenched in British law. What can you and can't you do, and so forth. Well, you know, you would, you know, under God's law, you wouldn't kill anyone anyway, you know. That's the thing. So, I don't know. You tell me. And even so, you can still be tried by Parliament. I think you can still be tried by Parliament anyway. It's equal force, isn't it? If someone's putting up an equal force, then, you know, what force is being used against you? Why would you attack someone if there wasn't some force being put up? You know, this is the thing. But what if that situation arises, then you tackle that situation when it arises. And also, in plenty acts, you've got special reasons anyway. I think that you look at each situation case by case, particularly when it's, you know, things that have got special reasons in the act, or says that if you can use a right privilege or interest, if an act says that, you know, you're not to be treated as defending a criminal charge if you've got a right privilege or interest, then it's safe to say that they've pretty much already took this into consideration, right? So as that act applies, they've already figured that in, or you wouldn't have done it. They wouldn't have made it in the first place. That is what the act says. So anything under that Criminal Damage Act is already legislated and covered for. They've already taken it into consideration and said, well, you know, you can have that one, and then you can have the Control of Advertisements, and even other acts which say, you know, can you have special reasons or not? Yes, right? Certain acts, it doesn't have it, right? And I wouldn't, there's no point, I wouldn't raise those matters unless, you know, I wouldn't raise those matters unless, you know, that's what it is. It's not that. So when you're talking to all, you know, what if someone dies or whatever, you know, if they do, then, you know, then, but if they're not, then it's not relevant to the facts and circumstances of that matter. It's relevant to what is, and most of it is either criminal damage or control of advertisements, one or the other. In and around that, we haven't yet had any. The Ulez camera is a criminal damage, but you're not even doing a petition. Those cameras are against the Charter of the Liberty of London because they've got road charges, additional road charges to what the public have paid for the roads. And that is against the Great Charter of London in active law. And actually, all those fines are illegal. You don't even need to write a petition to Parliament, because those fines are against the Great Charter of London, right? That is a fact. And the Ancient Liberties of London, you don't need to petition Parliament. Because when you receive a fine from Transport for London, it is void and null. And that means that basically, right, this woman is she has a legal obligation for Great Charter violations in London. So she's actually responsible for all these orders being sent out by Transport for London and the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, who is not a Christian of faith of this constitutional law and rights, who does not have faith in or believe it. And he's also a mayor who put the order through, right? He had to approve an order under the commission of the council, and then they're approving all these fines and sending bailiffs out, right? So that is evil. In English law, it is an evil act. It is actually evil what is being done to those Ulez people. It's actually evil. So, she's actually got to act in that, and there doesn't even need to be a petition. Those Stop Ulez protesters have got the right to bear arms. The Archbishop of Canterbury in 1688, with the Prince Orange, the Archbishop of Canterbury of Parliament in 1688 gave the citizens powers that if any force employed is acting against those great charters, they're allowed to bear arms to defend themselves against the force with equal force, right? That is the Ulez cameras. So the Blade Runners actually have got a lawful right to defend themselves, and they don't even actually need a petition. They don't even need to be collecting signatures. They've got a legal right to defend themselves against those cameras. And there was that Sue Hall woman who was the one going to go turn them off, but they're already illegal. So, and actually, it is actually this woman is responsible for those great charter violations with the Attorney General and possibly Archbishop of Canterbury, right? And we're actually, it's evil. This is what it is. The confirmation of the charters have actually put the job down to her, right? The confirmation of the charters have given her the job for this in law. And they've defined what is being done is subverting the rights and liberties of the realm. It is evil, right? It's already been defined and quantified in law as evil. And priests have got this is the whole point in having priests, right? They're meant to exercise, although the Catholics do that. They don't exercise people anymore. I don't know what she's going to do, but she can make them the Mayor of London declare all the fines are null and void, right? So this is it. There's no more clear explanation. I mean, all she needs to do is get out the usage of Parliament book. But I'm going into petitioning now. That's just to prove the right to petition. Well, actually, this doesn't come down to Thomas Erskine May. This is not really arguing Thomas Erskine May or if we've got parliamentary privilege or the right to petition. And it's not even, you don't even need to argue your right to bear arms to protect against those cameras. This is actually about the Magna Carta, and it's actually about the ancient liberties of London, that London shall have all its ancient liberties, and that is still in force. I mean, you can argue about all the other ones being repealed, and you can argue about this Charter of Confirmations, which this is still in force as well, but you can't argue about the ancient liberties of London. It comes down to the fact that you don't have tolls in London. It's a freeway. It's part of the main roadway system, Roman roadway system of England. You don't have road charges in London because the citizens pay for the upkeep of the roads and travellers can use it free of charge, right? And now people pay road tax for it. It's already paid for, right? It's an additional charge from a secondary, coming from a secondary place, which is the Mayor of London. Those roads have already been paid tax, road tax, tenancy, maintenance of roads, the main tenancy, maintenance, main tenancy, right? There's a right to use of the roads. It's a freeway. And they're being charged and actually having their things taken off them as well. So, the only thing she needs to look into is, what are the ancient liberties of London? And actually, the House of Lords has got a higher jurisdiction than the High Court. Well, it's Swift, isn't it? Jonathan Swift made the order, but his order's void. Swift's order is void because Swift's order is against the Great Charter. So he's in the freaking Boundary Commission. Swift's order is void. So he needs to go and unvoid it. And you don't need to fill an appeal form in because it actually is void now. It is void. No one needs to fill an appeal form in. You don't appeal it. It is of no effect and it is void. And that needs to be officially amended in the order. In fact, Mullally, right? Mullally, right, needs to. What Mullally has to do now is go see Jonathan Swift at the Boundary Commission. That's what Mullally needs to do. Mullally needs to go see Swift at the Boundary Commission now, right, and tell him that his order is null and void, right? That is what needs to be done. Mullally needs to go to Swift at the Boundary Commission and say, Swift, your order's void and null, right? And that is an act of an evil justice, right? And that it needs to be voided, okay? And once that's done, then it's never been challenged. Why is it null and void? Because the whole thing's null and void. And Khan, the Mayor of London, right? And he's not going to be popular. But I think that's the point. That's why they call it evil. But, it's unlikely to happen because, how much trouble can you be in? It's so serious. It's so... I don't think that no film, no movie has been any more serious in fiction, let alone in real life. Even like the Terminator movie, this is real. It's actually a real thing in real life, right? And Khan, Khan needs, he should, he needs to, he should be like Julian Assange, he should be in some embassy in another country hiding away from everyone. He needs to, Khan needs to leave England for his safety, and put himself somewhere in South America or somewhere hidden, because that's how serious it is. It's so serious that they can't even admit it. It's so, they've got in Iraq and Iran, they've got all these children, apparently the news were going on about, beheading babies or whatever. It's on that level, but they're claiming that actually happened. And this guy's meant to have been a lawyer, right? And claim he's doing something good for the environment, but he can't actually do it because it's illegal. What else? What other resolution are they going to offer us other than just continuing to humour it and more suffering, more and more suffering of humans? Why didn't they just think of something that was lawful rather than, we'll take everyone's cars off them because they won't be able to afford these fines, because it's impossible for anyone to be able to afford these fines if they live in this area. We'll force their things off them that they don't want to sell them, right? Why don't they think of a different way of doing it, which is not illegal, out of the creative infinity of human thought and imagination, Well, clearly Khan did not have that infinite capacity.